Hi there, Year 2 children. It's Mr Yeardsley. I'm going to read you a book today. I'm going to read you stories from this book over the next quite a few days, really. It's a book by David Walliams and it's called The World's Worst Teachers. I'll read you the beginning bit so we get an idea about what we're going to be finding out about. Dear reader, there have been 3 volumes of The World's Worst Children. The World's Worst Children, then imaginatively titled The World's Worst Children 2, which was inevitably followed by The World's Worst Children 3. In those books, there were countless stories of ghastly children. The absolute worst of the worst, the creme de la flemme, the nasty, the greedy, the grubby, the vain, the sneaky, the fussy, the lazy, the bossy, the boastful, and of course, most appallingly, the windy. Now it's time for children everywhere to get their revenge and wipe the smug grins off the faces of the grown-ups forever. The tables have turned. This is The World's Worst Teachers. 10 stories about teachers who make the world's worst children look like a church choir. They are the most loathsome collection of grown-ups ever. These teachers are every child's worst nightmare. So read on if you dare. Find out about the first teacher now. First teacher called Mr Pent. It's called Mr Pent's Balls. Look at all those balls been thrown at him. Once upon a times table, there was a maths teacher named Mr Pent. He certainly looked like a textbook maths teacher, with his wire-rimmed glasses, brown suit and comb-over. However, Mr Pent was anything but your average maths teacher. There he is. Oh no, he was one of the very worst teachers. That was because Mr Pent's every waking moment was taken up with one dark obsession: balls. He had a deep loathing of them. But where did this strange fixation with spherical objects come from? Our story begins when Mr Pent was still a child. It's easy to forget that teachers were once children, but in most cases they were. Some babies you knew immediately were destined to be teachers because they were born with a teacherly scowl of disapproval on their face. See that? Normal baby, teacher baby. I don't think I was like that as a baby. As soon as he put in his cot, baby Pent was counting the beads above his head. Soon he was writing complex mathematical equations on the wall with his alphabetti spaghetti. It was when, as a toddler, he began giving his parents algebra homework that they knew for sure that their little boy was destined to be a maths teacher. There he is, giving them homework. One day, when Master Pent was just 10 years old, that's 2 times 5, 7 add 3, 20 take away 10, or 50 divided by 5, he suffered a terrible accident. The boy was struck on the head by a ball. Not just any ball, a demolition ball. Hanging from a crane to knock buildings down. As balls go, this is to be one of the biggest and heaviest there is. After all, it's made of steel and swung from a crane to destroy buildings. Bish, bash, bosh. Being a child whose fate it was to become a maths teacher, it will not surprise you to learn that Master Pent had no time for toys or games or anything that might be considered fun. No, this mathematics-loving child filled his days with times tables, prime numbers, fractions, quadratic equations, trigonometry and, for most of us normal folk, the absolutely dreaded long division. One rainy day, Master Pent was on his way home from school, Maths Club. Maths Club was the world's most boring after-school club. Master Pent was in fact the only member. Other strong contenders for the world's most boring after-school clubs are Punctuation Club, Standing in a Puddle Society, Basket Weaving for Beginners, Train Spotters Anonymous, Sitting in the Dark Society, Staring at a Blank Wall Club, Traffic Cone Appreciation Society, Latin, Latin, Latin. In Maths Club, Master Pent had just been learning about pi, also known as sine, 3.14. Pi is even more boring than it sounds, and it sounds cataclysmically boring. It's a mathematical constant, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. Are you asleep yet? Zzz, zzz. If so, then good night. If not, then read on. When Master Pent spotted a huge steel ball, he was eager to put to the test this whole circumference diameter nonsense. As he fumbled at his pencil case for his ruler, he failed to see that this huge steel ball was in fact swinging straight towards him at speed. Clonk! Whoosh! It was meant to destroy an old block of flats that was standing right behind him. Instead, it struck the boy on the head. Hard. Really hard. Master Pent was knocked out cold. That was just as well as the ball batted him into the air. He flew, interestingly enough, exactly 3.14 miles before smashing through the roof of a shed in the back garden. Crunch! Master Pent didn't wake up until a whole week later. He discovered he was in hospital with an incredibly sore bandaged head. Ouch! He yelled. My head hurts! The boy had to keep the bandage on for 6 whole months and looked as if he was wearing a nappy on his head. Ha ha, nappy boy, laughed the other kids. Harumph, he harumphed. There he is, been laughed at. Ever since that fateful day of his accident, Pent detested balls of any kind. The sight of anything round was enough to bring back terrible memories of that great, big, steel ball. Clonk. So, when he grew up and became a maths teacher, Mr Pent was dismayed to find that in St Aub's school, where he taught, there were balls. Balls and more balls, each one reminding him of the worst day of his life. All those different balls bouncing around. Balls here, balls there, balls everywhere. In the playground, footballs, tennis balls, and even ping-pong balls were bounced at him from every angle. Boing, boing, boing. On spotting one, his eyes would all pop out of their sockets, his face would go a shade of purple, his glasses would steam up and his comb-over would stick up on end. Balls! Mr Pent would shout as he foamed at the mouth. The teacher's hatred was so great that he stuck warning signs up all over St Aub's, on every wall, door and window. He even stuck one to the dinner lady's bottom. No balls allowed in the playground. No balls whatsoever within a 100-mile radius of the school. No balls permitted on school premises. This last rule was hard to enforce, even if, being a maths teacher, he knew exactly what that 100-mile radius covered on a map, using his compass and a ruler, of course. Mr Pent would confiscate all balls on the spot. Then he would lock them up in his special ball cupboard at the end of a long corridor next to his classroom, and the sign read, Ball cupboard, beware, contains balls. Over the years, Mr Pent stuffed hundreds and hundreds of balls of all sizes in there, and there were hardly any room for more. If any pupil dared to ask him, Please can I have my ball back, sir? The teacher would smirk to himself before replying, Of course, child. Thank you, sir. Just one moment, if you please. Then he'd reach into the cupboard for the ball and pop it with a pair of compasses he'd concealed in his hand. Puff! The air would spurt out like a lazy bottom burp. One of those bottoms that's no hurry to leave. It seeps out over a period of seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or even in extreme cases, years. These ones are hard to blame on others. Short, sharp ones have an element of surprise, and a dirty look at someone close by is often deflected to blame. So, a close friend informs me. There you are, Mr Pent would say as he handed the deflated ball back to the child with a grin. Oh no, burst it. After he'd finally confiscated every single last ball from every child in the school, Mr Pent went further. Now anything spherical was on his hit list. The teacher stalked up and down the school, confiscating everything that was round. Marbles. Balls, these are mine. A space hopper from under a pupil. Boing, balls, that is confiscated. A gobstopper from the mouth of a gardener. Balls, spit that out. The globe from the geography classroom. Balls, balls are forbidden on school premises. A suspicious-looking pea from the dining hall. Balls, that pea could have had somebody's eye out. A string of pearls from round the neck of the headmistress, Mrs Stade. Balls, headmistress, balls, you are of all people should know better. Balls. It was a confiscation cavalcade. All those different balls he's taking there. Then if you look back here, there's the space hopper. What's going to happen next if you've got all of the balls? We'll find out tomorrow. I'll read the second part of Mr Pent's balls when I read to you then. Just remember, folks, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. And I'll see you tomorrow in school for a story. And I'll finish that. Bye now.